Welcome back to the District of Unity podcast. I'm Carl, and I still got my name on my chest in case I forget about it. So, what I want to talk about is drug use and how much of it has increased over the past several decades. Um, and it's not increasing in the terms of illicit drugs as much as it is prescription drugs. Okay. I see, we all see a lot of these commercials from the drug manufacturers. If you have ED, you can take this pill. If you have this disease, you can, get on this program to take these shots, take these pills, so forth and so on. So by the time you go through all of the commercials, by the time you get through all of the treatments that people get for certain ailments or whatever, they have a bag full of drugs. On top of the drugs, they take the illicit stuff, the marijuana, heroin, cocaine, or as the old school would say it, heroin. you know, and people blame anxiety and they blame some other factors for their marijuana use. I mean, hell, it's the same argument that they had with smoking a cigarette and, drinking and so forth. You know, I mean, do I drink? Yeah, you know. I mean, I have some friends that was with me in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania that saw me drink 28, drinks in one sitting. You know, I've had some folks that hung out with me in Maryland and Virginia saw me out drink the bar. Hell, went up to Minnesota, North Dakota, and, tore it up out there. California. I've been all over and did that. Do I do it all the time? No. Do I need to do it? No. Do I have control over it? I believe I do. Everybody else will say they believe they do. Do I have a problem? No. Do I get behind the wheel completely lit while I'm, inebriated and so forth? Never. I value my life and I value the life of others. So I'm not going to be high behind the wheel, you know? And look, there's people that have anxiety that is a real anxiety, that they cannot literally function, without, some sort of antidepressant or whatever. I get that, you know, but it's being pushed so hard that people that really doesn't have anxiety is taking these illicit drugs just because. And they think because they have a card to get marijuana that they can get behind the wheel, that they can, work while high and so forth, you know. And the worst thing about it is they'll bring up, I got anxiety, you know. This is why I act like a bitch. This is why I act like an asshole because I, I have anxiety. No, you have an ego problem. That's not anxiety. You don't want to be checked because you have an ego that you don't want anybody to check you off on. There's people that, you know, take these drugs and they think they can function with them. Just because you are aware of what's going on with you doesn't mean you're making the right decisions on what's happening around you. You know, I would never, I run a business. I also worked for the man, both government and private industry. There is not one time I would sit there and say, damn, I've got a drink on the job. Let me go ahead and take that one hit and so forth. And think that I'm going to perform better with it. And whatever anxiety, and I never ever said I had anxiety in my life. I can't think of one time where I've had a situation where it's like, you know, oh my God, I can't function. And that is not making fun of anybody that goes through that, you know. And I know there are people that use that as a crutch versus using that as, you know, because the people, and, I'm thinking as I'm talking, people that really have deep rooted anxiety where they can't function, you won't hear them talk about it. You might not even see that person. It's pretty damn funny that I see everybody that has anxiety that's so willing to jump out there with it. I really believe it's an ego problem. And I'm going to go to dictionary.com again. So, anxiety is distress or uneasiness of the mind caused by fear or danger or misfortune. Another definition that they have is earnest but tense desire. Okay. Um, the third definition, okay, based off of psychiatry, I should say. Of course, I will mess up words. So, a state of apprehension and psychic tension occurring in some forms of mental disorder. And yes, that is very true. There are some people, out there that really can't function at all. You know, I've seen, I got a story to tell after I read the definition of ego. So, ego, the I or self of any person, a person as thinking, feeling, willing, and distinguishing itself from the selves of others and from objects of thought. Psychoanalysis, this is the second definition. The part of the psychic apparatus that experiences and reacts to the outside world, thus mediates between the primitive drives of the ID and demands of the social and physical environment. So, a lot of people that claim anxiety have a very nasty ego. They think they are tens, you know, they think that they know it all, they think they can do it all, and they think they're right all the time. And when they're checked and they're proven wrong, oh, that's not fair. I have anxiety. You should have checked me and blah, blah, blah. And, people hate on me all the time, blah, 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 blah. First of all, if you had anxiety that bad, you would not really be able to interact. And I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, whatever. You know, the story that I was going to tell about it, this was pre pandemic. I did an Uber. Okay, I was the driver. I picked up this girl named Joan. Um, her parents had to been executives at some, you know, high end company. This was in Weirdsdale, Florida. I'm in Central Florida. So I picked up this girl Joan. She had been I mean, first of all, she was gorgeous. I mean, that woman was beautiful, knockout beautiful. I mean, I'm thinking with my other head here, but yeah, she was every bit of a nine or whatever. But that's besides the point. I told you we had fun on this channel, so I had to get off, topic a little bit. But anyhow, she was about, if I had to guess her age, probably about 22. College graduate. She was talking to me, and boy, the nervousness in her voice. And she told me she was an introvert. Um, she had to go to the bank. I remember we went to Wells Fargo. She saw a line going out the door. This was on a Saturday, I believe. And, banks usually on Saturdays close around 12 o'clock or whatever. So I took her there. It was a line out the door, and she was like, I can't, you know, I can't get in that line. I'm thinking, like, because the line was long, she didn't want to do it. So I was like, okay. She was like, do you know a check cashing place I can go to? And mind you, this Uber ride that I had with her, all right, a little side note, she had like 5 stops on there, okay? And, I was like, fuck it. I'm just out here, you know, just making some money, being out during the day. And this is around the time I first moved to Florida. I did Uber and Lyft to learn the area a lot better. Because I especially wanted to learn, like, all of the stops in Disney, Universal, some of these restaurants, some of these hotels or whatever. That way, when I'm ready to go out and have fun, I know where I'm going. You know what I'm saying? And I figured doing Uber and Lyft, taking people there was the best way for me to learn. You know, that's why I did it. So anyway, with Joan, I remember, um, and that might not even be her name or whatever, but I think that's what her name was. And I remember taking her to the check cashing place. The line wasn't out the door, but there was a line, and she just wasn't getting out of that damn van, man. I mean, it was going to take an act of God to get her out of that van. So she eventually relented and was like, you know, she went into the check cashing place, and she came out and said that she couldn't do a deposit. I'm looking at her like, the hell you gonna deposit to in a check cashing place? I'm like, you need to deposit it into your bank. You can do a mobile deposit. Oh, I didn't think of that. I was like, yeah, you can do a mobile deposit, and it may take an extra day or two for your money to process, but you can put it in a mobile deposit if you don't want to be bothered with the lines of the bank or whatever. At this point, it wasn't occurring to me that she was having anxiety. Okay, so I took her um, to a third stop. She was picking up some new glasses. I remember she went in the store, and I parked relatively close to the eyeglass place. I can't think of the name of it or whatever. Um, and I remember it. It was like 5 minutes. She stepped out of the store. I mean, that poor woman was knock kneed nervous. I'm thinking, like, did somebody say something to this girl? And you know how somebody has stage fright and they freeze up? Or when somebody's afraid of heights or a spider or whatever, they don't run, they freeze up. It's like they ain't moving nowhere. I got up out of that van and I literally had to tell her, I'm your Uber driver. Almost like I'm waving that little clock in front of somebody, like that hypnotic thing or whatever. And I was like, come with me, baby. I'm like talking to her. I'm holding her hand, and then she was hyperventilating. Thank God I had a bag in the car for her to breathe into. I had to, I almost carried her to the van. This is how bad she was. And she got in the van and she was just like shaking so much. And she was breathing like this. That's anxiety where you can't function. Okay. And my fatherly instincts took over and I started talking to her. And I was trying to get her to come back to reality and so forth. And that's when she started telling me the story that she was homeschooled virtually her entire life, because her parents were, you know, wealthy and, they didn't expose her. So she really didn't have any of the social, you know, aspects of interacting with folks and trying to learn, you know, deep rooted interactions. And, I had to talk to her like a father to her, you know, because I could easily see her falling in love with somebody and they would take complete advantage of this woman. I mean, they would ruin her. Either it's like feast or famine. She would either find the right person that would treat her like gold for the rest of her life, or she will find more than likely the wrong one that will completely fuck her life up or whatever. And her sister, because she had a sister that was the same too. So after I talked to her and so forth, I realized how bad the anxiety was because she never had that social interaction with people outside of her house, basically. And when it came to college, she did it online. And when it came to her job, she worked for one of the cruise companies or whatever, and she was a manager. Go figure. But she never had to go into the office. You see what I'm saying? So she never had to sit in front of people. She never had to deal with people. You know, she chose to go out on her own because she wanted to know what it was like. No BS. I'm telling you the absolute truth. I have never seen anything like it. And thank God I was able to help her out. Because, I mean, you know, God knows what she would have done, if somebody else was there. And I just felt like, like I said, my fatherly instincts kicked in, and I just felt like I had to help this woman. I mean, she was gone. I mean, that is true anxiety. And I did recommend to her maybe you need to get some mental health treatment for that. At the very least, I would think that they could get her into a situation where she can interact with people slowly and go out and start learning how to deal with people real time in front of her. Not virtually, not on the phone or whatever, where it's like you don't have to see them, you're not in front of them. And considering that she's 20, I'm guessing 22, she could be a little bit older than that. Boy, she got a tough road to hoe there. I mean, I really feel bad for her, but I also blame the parents for that because they never exposed her. That's a little bit too much protectionism there, where that's true anxiety. Some other people, like I said, that claim anxiety, some of them may have it to a certain degree, but other people want to cover it up because they don't want to be checked. They want to be able to, take drugs whenever they want. They want to be able to be autonomous or, oh, well, you can't, say that to me because, that's offensive, blah, blah, blah. And they just hide behind it. Now, Joan, that woman there, 100% anxiety, 100% mental health, and so forth. Again, it's just my opinion on it. And this country, you know, And I tied the drug use into it and so forth because I think, some people use that as a cover just to get marijuana and stuff like that. And it leads to other things. And I think about all of those senior citizens in the villages that they are stoned to the max and they behind the damn wheel of their golf carts. And I'm talking about the villages, Florida. They can't drive to save their life. They damn near ready to kill people out there, including themselves. And they drive like this. They just look forward. It's like a caveman. See, do, get. It's like they're only going in one direction and they have the wheel tight like this. And then when they see a car in front of them or coming on the side, when they start having spatial recognition, it's like, where did that car come from? And you see by the way they drive. And I think the villages is not unique. I think that's a growing concern across the nation, you know, that these people are, hiding behind certain mental buzzwords just to use the drugs. Whatever you do at home or when you're partying and you're not out there operating equipment and damn sure behind the wheel of, you know, a car, a truck, an airplane, boat, whatever, knock yourself out, literally. But, if you're going to go to work, if you're going to do stuff, leave that shit alone until you get off, you know, and don't get behind the wheel of any car doing that and claiming anxiety because you might not be able to claim anything if your ass get wrapped around a damn tree somewhere and they're mourning your loss, That's what it's going to come to at some point, you know. But don't take my word for it. Just look at the news sometime. And, you know, I can tell you, a lot of that drugs and alcohol are behind a lot of these accidents and so forth, And it's sad to see it. And then when you see the interactions at work and places of business and so forth, and you can tell these people are high and so forth. You speak to some of them, it's like, hey, what's going on, man? Hey, man, what's going on, dude? What's up, man? I'm like, hey, did you get my order over there? Man, I forgot that. Let me go ahead and, yeah, man, my bad, dude. It's stuff like that. Like, how can you tolerate that shit? And and I'm sure some of these workplaces are hamstrung and you know reprimanded and getting rid of them because they don't know how to handle it. Officers are in training now, trying to figure out how they're going to deal with people that take medical marijuana and get behind the wheel and so forth because they are inebriated when they're behind the wheel. But again, it's just my opinion. Um, Give me your thoughts, and we'll do this again. And there may be a part two or part three and so forth to this. So, all right, I'll check you guys out next time.